This is a Pecha presentation. Pecha is a Japanese concept consisting of 20 minimalist slides, 20 seconds per slide, and no more than 6 minutes and 40 seconds for the entire presentation. My name is Kathy Hansen. As you'll see later in the presentation, one of my major research areas is storytelling, and one kind of story that really interests me is the Who Am I story. So this is a brief story of who I am. I was born a long time ago, and I would like to think that I am the same happy, twinkly, positive person that I was at about age 1. I have spent most of my life in 2 places, New Jersey and Florida, about 2/3 in New Jersey and 1/3 in Florida. I grew up with 2 younger sisters in a typically dysfunctional American family. Here in my favorite photo of my sisters and me, we're in our cowgirl phase. That's me wearing a slip and holding a 6-shooter. I grew up extremely committed to education. It was understood that I would go to college and excel in school so I could get there. When I took my SATs, the form asked me about my educational aspirations, and as you can see on my score sheet, I indicated doctorate. However, my road to even getting my bachelor's degree was long and winding, with a number of obstacles along the way. It took me 19 years to get my degree, interrupted by family, career, and a few mistakes. Still, I managed to gain experience along the way that was beyond what might have been expected for someone without a degree. I worked in the printing industry, magazine publishing, in public relations, in newspaper editing, and I was speechwriter for the first woman elected to the Florida cabinet. Also along the way, I became fascinated with the whole concept of the job search. I learned that I was really good at it. I've often said I would love to job hunt full-time if I could get paid for it. I was especially good at writing cover letters. Employers would sometimes call me up just to compliment my cover letters. That fascination with careers led me to start writing popular press books. My first one was on cover letters, and I've written 6 since 1990. I have 3 coming out this year, a revised edition of A Foot in the Door, a book on executive resumes, and a book on study skills. Finally, I got my bachelor's degree at Stetson University in Florida, where my husband was now teaching. For about 3 years after graduation, I worked in various administrative jobs at Stetson, in the art department, for the provost, and in the admissions office. One day, a colleague in the management department suggested I be great at teaching the department's problem child class, business communication. In fact, I got that job, but my first semester I was a terrible teacher. My students tended to look like this because I basically stood in front of the class and read my notes. But as terrible as I was, I had a student named Ted who saw something in me. He thought I was a good teacher. He encouraged me to keep at it. So because of his encouragement, I persisted even though most students thought I was awful. So what I'm most proud of is how hard I worked to improve and how dramatically I did improve to become a good teacher. So before long, my students looked more like this. In fact, these are my students, engaged, interactively participating, and often working in small groups. I left teaching after 4 years because I did not have an advanced degree. I began working as creative director of Quintessential Careers, providing content and editing its newsletter. At the same time, I also began an entrepreneurial venture, a resume writing service that was a spin-off of Quintessential Careers. It was successful but very isolating, as I worked from home and didn't see people. I knew I wanted to someday get back into teaching, so midway through the years I had my business, I entered a doctoral program. Early in my program, while taking an organizational behavior class, I got interested in postmodernism, which led me to a concept I'd never heard of but was instantly drawn to: organizational storytelling. In fact, my dissertation was about storytelling in the job search, and I wrote both a traditional dissertation and a popular press book on the subject. My dissertation was an intersection among organizational entry, organizational change, and organizational storytelling. A major premise was that arguably the ability to handle change is the most important skill you can have in an organization. I did narrative inquiry. I collected stories of change that individuals underwent in organizations, and I used focus groups to explore how they could use those change stories in the job search. Toward the end of my PhD program, I got an unexpected opportunity to return to teaching at Stetson, where I began to integrate storytelling into the classroom. My students and I explored Who Am I stories. We talked about how to express values with stories. We explored how to spark change with stories, and we looked at storytelling in the job search. We also played a fun game called Pitch a Story that stimulated students. Here are my research interests. They are diverse, yet focused, since I'm especially interested in intersections among these interests. Having diverse interests also opens me up to collaborating with colleagues. My research interests include, of course, storytelling, organizational change, teaching and learning, virtual teams, entrepreneurship, career development, and intuition. Where will the next chapter in my story take me? My hope is to continue educating and pursuing my passions through writing, conducting research, and teaching. I want to touch people's lives and help them tell their stories in many wonderful and empowering ways.